All right, Marvin, the recording is started, so take it away, sir.
All righty, sounds good. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. My name is Marvin Mao, and I support Endevor on the CA Mainframe product marketing team. It's my privilege to welcome you to today's webcast, the 2016 CA Endevor SCM Product Release Methodology, User-Driven Continuous Delivery. This really is truly an exciting time to be a part of the Endevor family. With our organization pushing the mantra that satisfaction only comes from helping our customers succeed, Endevor has really stood at the forefront by pioneering a new and unique model of agile development, one that we feel is truly customer first. So we're incredibly excited to be sharing that with you today, and with that, it's my sincere pleasure to introduce today's presenters, Rose Cash and Pete McCullough, Product Manager and Product Owner of Endevor. Now, before we begin, just a few words on logistics. To ensure audio quality of this webcast, we do ask that you please remain muted throughout the session. You can do so by dialing #6 or #6 on your phone. Now, that said, we very, very much welcome your questions and feedback throughout this session, so please submit those in the Q&A or chat section on your screen. All right, so Pete, Rose, thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Take it away.
Thanks, Marvin. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today, the webinar is going to focus on 3 topics associated with release delivery. And the first really is going to talk about, what we mean when we say continuous delivery and how this can benefit all of you. And then we're going to describe how you can participate to gain insight into what's being delivered and offer your modifications or your specific suggestions to suit your requirements. And then finally, we're going to dive into what's new with the latest incremental release for CA Endevor SCM version 18. So what do we mean when we speak about continuous delivery? It's really quite simple, and the process begins and ends with all of you. But the reality is it really doesn't end, and that's why we're calling it continuous in a sense. And that's what we mean when we say it's an iterative process. It really starts with a requirement from you. And, that requirement typically comes through our ideation platform located at the communities. Anything and everything is welcome. Many of you are not shy about submitting your ideas. We go through the entries in the ideation community on a regular basis. They're reviewed, they're prioritized, we talk about them at a high level. And then, Pete, what happens after that? We turn them over, right?
Hi, everybody. This is Pete. Yeah, we turn it over from the ideation queue. We have the prioritized list, and then we take it to the Scrum process, the Agile Scrum process, where we take the accepted ideas and put them into the product, the release, or the sprint backlog, and I'll talk about that later. And then, as the time and resources allow them, based on priority, we'll take it from the backlog and then begin developing, working with our collaboration partners and validation partners to deliver the features. And that's where we get to the incremental releases, where features are published as soon as they're completed. And completed means regression tested, certified, they're GA, and our validation partners have said they're ready to go. So that takes us to the Agile Scrum process. I'll get a little bit more detail about that, talking about the Scrum team sprints, epics, and stories.
Yeah, but Pete, just circling back around, right, as features get delivered, again, we start this process all over again. We focus back in on the requirements that are coming in through the ideation process, through our communication with our customers, through our roadmap sessions, our user group presentations, and we ensure that we're continually in tune with what's important to you, all of our customers. And through this mechanism and through these ways of facilitating conversation, we gain insight into what really matters, what's important to your business, what's going to move the needle, if you will, to make a difference in your business via modifications through the Endevor product.
That's right, Rose. And then as we get that input from you, that we will take those ideation things into the to the Scrum process, and we can get into that, and which allows us to work with you, our validation partners, throughout the whole process, from the beginning where we're refining the idea, what it exactly that it is that we're to build. We begin working on that thing to ensure that it is what's expected. We demo it as progress is being made, and we continue that process until it's given the good to go. I just want to cover a little Agile terminology. This may be not new news to many of you, but just in case there are some that aren't familiar, because we've been doing this for a little bit now. A story is a specific piece of work that the team's working on. It usually takes the form of an enhancement. Stories in Agile are not just the coding, it's the entire process for developing a piece of work. It's the documentation, it's the spec, it's the design, it's the coding, it's the user testing, it's the acceptance testing. It's all that is wrapped into a story. And stories are kept in a backlog. They're prioritized based on what we hear from you, based on where the team is and just what needs to be done next. And that's my job as the product owner, is to maintain that backlog in the right priority. The Scrum team, which is usually made up of 6 to 7 engineers, will take those stories off the backlog in a session that we call a sprint planning session. And I'm in that room, and I tell them what the priorities are and explain to them in detail as your representative, as a representative for the customer, of what exactly is being asked for. The Scrum Master is in a room to facilitate the meeting. The Scrum Master is basically the person that makes sure that the process is flowing correctly, that Rose's role is as the product manager is describing the why, and she does the why to me, and I work with what it is, what that feature is, and I explain that to the team. And the team is really responsible for the how, for the implementation. And the Scrum Master's kind of role is to make sure that everybody stays within those areas. I don't get involved in the how so much, and et cetera. Then we start working, and it's called either a sprint, which is our old terminology, and iteration now with Agile CA Agile Central product that we're calling it. And that's the time period when the development occurs. And that could be anywhere from a week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks, or 3 weeks. It's whatever the teams decides. Currently, the Endevor Scrum teams are working on a 4-week cycle. So at the end of that 4-week cycle, they will have their completed stories. And as I said, all of those tasks that I mentioned through requirements, coding, testing, documentation, all that must be done before it's eligible for a end of sprint review. And that's where we actually demonstrate it with our validation partners. So we can go to the next slide. And then we get to the continuous delivery facet or phase, and that's where for the at the sprint review, our partner said something is ready to something's ready to publish. And this is where we've introduced the idea of an incremental release, which is sort of a backwards release, backwards from the way we used to do it with the waterfall delivery, where we held on to something for 18 months or longer, and then all of a sudden we unleashed it on you and say, here are all these features, aren't they great? And pretty much everybody goes through a learning curve. What we do with the incremental approach is that as soon as features are deemed as meeting the MVP, which Rose mentioned earlier, minimal viable product, we will publish it, and it will be available GA to not only the validation partners, but anyone that has elected to install the incremental release. It is GA as much as the prior release. It's supported. If there's any issues, you can call in, and the defects will be corrected if you find any. We do have a zero defect policy these days now, so as you notice, there are very, very few defects that you'll encounter with Endevor. So so basically, the way the incremental release processes is that we start out with the first release, which we call the increment 0 or the base release, and that's basically the same functionality as what's currently GA. In Endevor terminology, our GA complete release is V17. That's in service mode only, meaning we're only creating fixes for it, and version 18 is the incremental release. So when we went GA with the base release of 18, it was pretty much the same functionality as 17. And then subsequent features were delivered as a result of those end-of-sprint reviews. And they're packaged in PTF format so that you don't go through a big install. It's just a matter of installing PTFs. And then when all of the planned features have been delivered, the incremental release is designated GA complete. Now, that time period is right now we're looking at roughly 12 months, but we don't know for sure because this is an iterative process, and we hear back from you whether these features are done or we need more work or that kind of thing. So we continually work on those things. But our general target is to have it complete in a year, and we'll start the next process. So why do we do the incremental releases? Is that you don't have to wait until the last feature is published before you can begin getting value from features in the new release. And it also provides you with a capability to give us early feedback in terms of how those features are working for you and how they could be improved through tweaks, and that's going through the ideation process that Rose referred to. Ultimately, when the release reaches the GA complete status, all features have been field validated and we're ready to move on to the next incremental release. So at the, as I said, how this works is that the end of sprint review, where we do the demonstrations for validation partners, we actually have a survey where they are given the opportunity to vote whether the features are ready to be published or not. If they're not, what needs to be done, and if they're not ready, we'll take it into the create new stories for the next sprint and continue working on them. For those things that have been deemed MVP, they are packaged as a PTF and published in GA within a few weeks after the end of sprint review meeting. We've actually introduced something with the current incremental delivery, which is an incremental delivery PTF itself. This was developed for incremental delivery number 4, which was just published very, very recently. And this incremental delivery PTF is makes it easier to keep up to date with the installing maintenance and feature PTFs. Basically, it is, I don't want to say service pack, but it is sort of a roll-up of all newly published and previously published feature PTFs and fixed PTFs that may have been published to that date. So once you install that incremental delivery PTF, the effect will be that you will be completely up to date with all new features as well as all maintenance that have been published. We've actually enhanced the version number that you've used to seeing on the Endevor panels and reports, where it was a VV.R 18.0. We've added a second or a third set of numbers, as you see in the bullet there on the slide, 1803, 18.0.04, and that indicates the incremental delivery number. So that will be displayed on the ISPF panels in the user interface. It will also be displayed on report headings, et cetera. So you'll always know exactly where you are with the incremental delivery implementation. So what we ask, though, is that when you call in an issue, we ask that you be up to date with the most current incremental delivery PTF to make sure that any issues you find that haven't already been resolved. So let me go into a little bit more detail through a chart here and how this process flow works. So if we go back to V16, we've gotten to the GA complete, and this is the red diamond there. And then we will start the incremental delivery for version 17, and that will go through until it becomes GA complete. When V17 becomes GA complete, that's the time we will issue the end of service notification for V16. That's pretty much the way it's worked with our prior deliveries of releases as well. As soon as we issue a GA release, we'll issue the end of service notice and give you usually 12 to 18 months on that. But with incremental deliveries, now with 17, as you see here, we have a couple of dots on this line. The black dot indicates a product fix PTF, and the red or the blue circle indicates a delivery point. And in there are 2 new enhancements that are being delivered. At that point, those will be published. You don't have to be a validation partner. Anybody in the Endevor community can install those features. And the process will go on until we actually get all of the planned functionality enhancements that were planned for the feature or for the release delivered. And then we'll mark that release GA complete. And then the process will continue with, in this case, version 18, where we'll create the base increment and then begin delivering features for that. So we've really changed a lot. For those of you who have been with the product for a while, you'll realize that from the old days with the waterfall delivery and where we'd go off and create specs and on features that we may have heard from you for over the years, and we thought that you wanted to becoming much more dynamic in terms of working with you and making sure that what we're delivering is what you want, and we're delivering it as quickly as possible. And we've taken that delivery process that I described a minute ago. On this slide, we've actually made it a little bit even more dynamic in the sense that those new enhancements and product fixes are published independently as soon as they are ready to go. And then for your benefit, those delivery points will just, we didn't have time to do the Pac-Man slide in here, but those blue circles will eat up the preceding PTFs so that you can either install them individually or you can wait for the blue circles and as you go through the release process. Those blue circles are actually cumulative, so that if you happen to be busy and not installed the first delivery point, incremental delivery PTF, you could always install a second or third, and the effect will get you up to date with all of the published feature PTFs and maintenance PTFs.
So, Pete, here's where we do our pop quiz, right?
Okay, that's right, Rose.
Right, we were doing a pop quiz.
You want to ask the question? Go ahead. You ask the question.
So Pete, I'm installing version 17, and I'm at the third circle, the third dotted line blue circle. How many yellow features can I expect to install?
If you're installing the third incremental delivery PTF, you will have 5 new features included in that.
Okay, and then when I install the final blue circle, just before the red dimer where it says end of V17 development, how many features?
It will pick up those additional 2 features, and so we'll have a total of 7 new features. And there will be also 3 defect PTFs that will also be included by the time we're done with that.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on.
Okay, so thanks, Pete. Getting back to the approach that we're taking here, as Pete repeatedly said, that we've moved away from the waterfall methodology. We've moved away from gathering ideas over a long period of time, and our approach really has been adjusted to ensure that we are focusing on product changes that matter, product changes that can move the needle for your business by streamlining a process, maybe helping you do your job better as an administrator, perhaps helping your developers stay focused on developing high-quality code as quickly as possible. And we do this by engaging you in several ways, not just up front, not just in taking your suggestions and your ideas ideas and having a conversation through the ideation community, which, by the way, we very much encourage. Just submitting the idea and waiting for votes really isn't ultimately what we're looking for. We're looking for a back-and-forth engagement to help us to determine how valuable and how needle-moving, I'm going to use that expression, I guess, often, how valuable is it going to be ultimately to your business. But also, on the other side, we're asking for your participation after you submit that requirement, because we want to ensure through the iterative process that Pete just described that we're hitting that target. And it's been proven repeatedly throughout these Agile deliveries that we are hitting the target as customers are becoming more and more engaged with us, are seeing how the team adjusts what they're working on and how they're approaching some of the requirements, and ultimately delivering them out to you where you're taking them in and you're actually accepting them into your environment, using them either immediately or shortly thereafter to roll out to your customers. So you're influencing our roadmap on the one hand in submitting your ideas. We're prioritizing those. You're interacting with us and engaging with us. Hopefully, you're also seeing that we're communicating back through that forum, through the change in status or state of those ideas. And then you're also participating in our validation program where you're actually seeing the software as it's being developed and you're making an impact each and every time the team performs an end-of-sprint review. And I know many of you are already involved in this process. For those of you who aren't and are interested in participating, please feel free to reach out to me, rose.sakatch@ca.com, and I will get you engaged. Version 18.
Sorry, I just got off mute here. So to review what's been delivered for version 18 to date, we've actually, I sort of didn't tell the entire truth when I said that the incremental base was the same as the current GA version, because with version 18 we actually did some long needed cleanup of the product, and we eliminated several antiquated components. We eliminated native security. The external security interface is the way to go with security within Endevor. We also eliminated the system-defined type sequencing, and that was actually replaced by global type sequencing. I believe that was introduced with version 4 of Endevor many years ago with the intention of eliminating system type sequencing. So we finally got to that point. We also eliminated several old integrations. The Infoman interface, the CA Roscoe interface, and the CA Netman interfaces have been removed. We've pretty much verified with the customer base that this was not going to be a negative impact to them, and it really helps the team to be more responsive in terms of development support by not having to certify and maintain a lot of code that is no longer actually in use. So then we, moving on to the features that were delivered, the enhancements that were delivered with the version 18. One was an audit-related enhancement. I think that there was, over the years, people have created this capability through user exits or similar capability, but basically it provides the capability for you to have package approvers not become disqualified as approvers if they had anything to do with that package that they would have normally approved. So if that package approver had actually changed an element or created a package or had something to do with that package other than approving it, they would not be an approver. So that was put in as a result of audit requirements, IT audit requirements, and I think it was something that's pretty clear that belongs in Endevor. With version 17, we introduced the alter action, which is the capability to modify some of the Endevor MCF data, descriptions and things like that, CCIDs, processor group. There was, we heard from our validation partners and others that we needed to provide some kind of capability to restrict or allow you to restrict what your users can modify with the alter action. Some people don't allow CCIDs to be changed or don't allow processor groups to be changed. So ESI has been enhanced to support the metadata fields that alter can be used to change. One of our interfaces, the integration with the natural environment, INA as we call it, had some usability issues that have been addressed, and those were published with version 18. And then with web services, more and more of you are starting to install web services for the Eclipse UI and for other reasons, and have run into some difficulties because it is different than what people have been used to with general ZOS related installations, because it's a lot of USS and things that are just kind of foreign to us. So we looked at how we could improve it, and we've simplified the configuration process, as well as providing an echo utility that could be used to confirm that the installation process was completed correctly before you try to go live. So those were the features that have been delivered for version 18 to date. And then, as I said earlier, we created the Agile Delivery PTF, which is actually, I believe it sort of fits in with an ideation entry that came in from several people that says, please give us an idea of what maintenance level we're on. When we dropped service packs, it was more difficult for people to understand where they were. They had to actually look at their CSIs or some PCSIs to see what PTFs have been applied. And now with the Agile Delivery PTF, we are actually updating the delivery number, which will give you a benchmark of where you are with your implementation. Before I stop talking, I'm done with the slide, but I just wanted to cover a couple of questions that came in through the chat, just to make sure that they're covered. One was about how often does CA think that the typical customer will apply non-hyper PTS? I would hazard a guess that once a year. I don't understand how this new methodology helps people with these sorts of upgrade policies. I would say absolutely right. The incremental release process is quite different. It's a different development methodology. It's a different delivery methodology. It requires, if you're going to participate, it requires applying these PTFs, whether they're fixed PTFs or feature PTFs, either individually or through the Agile Delivery PTF on a regular basis. If that doesn't fit into your site's requirements and you don't need to have the functionality that's being provided by the incremental features, my recommendation is that you stay on the GA complete release, which would, in this case, would be version 17 for Endevor, of which only service PTFs are published, and you can put those on when you need them. But if you would like to participate in the incremental delivery process, it does change the way we do deliver these things.
And Pete, I just want to chime in on that as well. You know, I think for some customers who live under those guidelines, restrictions, or policies, however you want to word that, there is opportunity for Endevor admins if your company allows you to begin downloading and understanding each of the various feature points within your sandbox area, so that you as the admin are very familiar with the feature sets, you understand the feature sets, you know what kind of testing or rollout is ahead of you as you prepare to install that complete release when it comes to that point. So there is still an advantage if your organization does restrict or would probably likely not embrace installing or rolling out features when they get delivered.
Thank you, Liz. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. the next question is, when we receive the base version 18 release, we plan to do full validation. After that, with PTFs, is a full validation required, or only those features that are updated? I would have to say that it really depends on what's being delivered. Generally, I would say that it would be very safe to focus on the features that were delivered with the PTF, and that our team itself, before we publish anything, goes through a full set of automated certification tests, product-wide for regression, so that there's very, very small chance that any new bugs that are introduced will get out to you. But our environment is different than yours, and there may be something. But I would say that you would probably be safe using common sense if we're just changing a panel. There's a good description that's provided in our documentation each time we publish this of exactly what changed, and so you can get an idea. So if it's just a panel change or a message change or a new process or utility, you'll see that you'll probably be pretty easy to determine what scope testing you need to do. And if you have any questions, I'm always available, or you can call support, and I'm sure they can give some guidance.
Wow. Sorry, Pete. Are there other questions?
Yes, there are. There's a few more. If the first incremental release we put on our team is Incremental 4, do we have to put on Incremental 1, 2, and 3 first? And that answer is no, that the Agile Delivery PTF that we're creating will prereq all of the prior published feature PTFs and maintenance PTFs. So you will have to download and install those PTFs, but they will all be installed as part of the Incremental 4 Agile Delivery PTF. And I'm just focusing on questions. And has course changed in support of Agile incremental release installs? I believe that you can install, you certainly can install incremental releases with CSM.
And that is CA's Core Software Manager.
Right. Thank you. Apologize for the acronym. So I think that's it for the questions. If anybody else has anything they would like to ask, we have time.
Absolutely. And sorry for that earlier interrupt, but I wanted to say that these really are some great questions, and I just want to encourage you to continue submitting those, through the interface. More than happy to have Pete and Rose address those today. But first, let me just take a moment to thank them for presenting this content today. Truly, I'm blown away. It's just mind-boggling to imagine the degree of change that was required internally within CA to shift, from a waterfall methodology to, this incremental release and delivery methodology, and then on top of that, take that up a notch and move and evolve towards continuous delivery. Truly, it's, as an organization as a whole, we're really quite thankful for the Endevor team for taking ownership of that and demonstrating its incredible customer value, especially, that flexibility on just being able to install PTFs at your own pace, at your own personal organizational needs. So thank you again so much for sharing that with us. And again, keep those questions coming. What I want to do is just leave you with two quick closing thoughts. One that, again, I know we shared a lot of information, so in general, if you want to catch up on anything relating to Endevor, please do visit our website at ca.com/Endevor. That'll take you straight to the Endevor product page. Also, but more importantly, there's just no better time than now to voice your needs in the global ideation and customer validation communities. And to really get started there, go visit communities.ca.com, go for the CA Endevor community. Really, it's a large, very supportive, very active community, and if you're not already a part, very much encourage you to go introduce yourself, get involved. Really, it's just the best way to make sure that your voice and your needs are reflected in our product development. With that said, of course, if you have any additional questions, please do feel free to reach out to Rose or Pete at the emails that you see here. With that, have there been any more questions that have come in?
I don't see any, Marvin.
All righty, folks. So we'll leave it at that. Again, if you didn't have an opportunity to submit a question, don't hesitate to reach out to Rose or Pete with your thoughts. Also go on the CA Community's forum, great place to air those out as well. We will have a on-demand version of this webcast available to you later in the week in case you want to revisit anything. But again, folks, thank you all so very much for taking the opportunity to be with us today. We really do sincerely appreciate it and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.